Hi everybody and welcome to today's video. My name is Matt and this is What Matters to Matt, and on today's video I want to talk to you about overcoming some of those doubts or even some of those fears when it comes to running the long run. Now this is hopefully the first video in a series of videos where I talk about different aspects of maybe your training cycle or your training block. And I wanted to start with the long run specifically. One of the reasons why I wanted to start with the long runs, if I reflect back to when I trained for my first marathons, one of the things that happened to me every single week was I saw that long run staring back at me on the plan. I did a Hal Higdon intermediate training plan, and I saw that long run staring back at me at the end of every single week. And I knew I was going to be running that long run on fairly tired legs because of all the training through the week. And I also knew that I had never run that far before. This was the first time I had trained for anything. I didn't go through the traditional, maybe run a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon. I jumped right into not really being a runner to running a marathon. So there was always a lot of anxiety knowing that this was the farthest that I ever ran. So it gave me lots of questions and lots of doubts. So I wanted to kind of cover off some of the tips and tricks I had, just some of the things that I've picked up from other people that you might be able to incorporate or think about when you're getting ready and when you're actually running in those long runs. Okay, so before we even get into some of those tricks, some of those tips that I have, I think it's really important to kind of define what I mean by a long run. And the simplest way to describe it, and this comes from Jason, it's over at Strength Running. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel and to his Strength Running podcast in the description down below. But Jason had a very simple way to describe what a long run is. And simply, it's the longest run of your training week. If you're in a training block, in the long run is the longest run of your training week. You don't have to think of a long run as a 20 miler or a progression run or a marathon paced run. And it doesn't have to necessarily be even close to that. Whether you're training for a 5K, 10K, whatever you're doing, the long run simply is the longest run you have for the week. And tip number one is use your long run as practice for your race day. Now what I like to do, it actually starts the night before. When I'm eating supper, I try to eat a little bit more carbs than I usually would eat. This is just to top up some of that glycogen stores from all of the running that I've been doing all week. Doesn't mean that you have to go crazy. Doesn't mean that you have to do a full carb load every single weekend before your long run, but it does allow you to be a little bit more full and a little bit more ready when it comes to running that run the next day. Also, on that night, I like to prepare and get out everything that I'm going to need for that run. How many gels or how many goos or what kind of nutrition are you going to need on that run? What's your hydration strategy for that run or for the race? Get all that out and ready and prepared for the next day, including my kit. What am I going to be wearing on race day? If the weather permits, I'm going to wear that in my long run just to make sure that there's no chafing or anything like that, so I know that I'm going to be comfortable on race day wearing whatever I'm wearing. The next morning, when I get up, I do the same thing that I would on race day. Again, we're practicing for that day. Long run tends to be the best opportunity to do this, is that I'll get up around the same time that I plan on getting up on race day. I'll eat my breakfast, which is usually just a bagel, some peanut butter, a banana, some honey, and lots of coffee. Lots of coffee. And tip number two is try to focus on what the purpose of that long run is. It's not the opportunity for you to go out there and absolutely kill yourself, to stretch yourself as far as you can, to get as far as you can in distance on that run. Save that sort of thing for race day. But it is the opportunity for you to absolutely build your endurance. Now I know there are different types of long runs out there, but for the most part, what you're trying to do week over week when it comes to your long run is to build up your endurance. And typically, like a lot of the solid plans out there, good marathon plans or even 5K plans, they use that golden rule of really not looking to add more than 10% to the amount of running that you're doing any given week. That could be 10% in your total weekly mileage, or even just looking to add just a mile or two to your long run every week. Keep that in mind when you're going out on your long runs. Don't kill yourself. Don't risk injury. Use the long run for what it's meant to be used for. And the next tip is both mental and physical, and it's that the long run is not meant to be easy. You got to remember that the long run, oftentimes, if it's the first time you're training for a certain distance, it could be the furthest that you've ever run. So you're building up that endurance. So it's not going to be easy. If it's you're training for a distance that you've trained before, it certainly could be the furthest that you've run during a particular training block. So again, it's not meant to be easy. And I actually remember, if I look back to when I trained for that first marathon, there was this day where I had to run 24 kilometers. And I got up really early in that morning, got up at about 4:30, went to the gym, did a back workout. I know I'm supposed to prioritize my running, but that's just what I had time for that morning. And then I went and taught elementary for the morning. Then in the afternoon, I did that 24-kilometer run. And then in the evening, I went to my second job where I was working at a gym, just sitting there at the front desk, nothing too taxing. But I remember as I was sitting there, I was texting one of my friends that had given me lots of advice and lots of tips in my training. And I said to him, I am totally wiped. I am really exhausted. I have no idea how I'm going to be able to run a full marathon after just totally burning myself out from running 24 kilometers. And his reply back to me was, have you ever run that far before? And I immediately came back to him with, well, no. And he said, did you expect it to be easy? Next time, run a little further. And yes, comfort is king. And when I talk about comfort in this case, I am talking about your footwear. Now, when I was training for my last marathon, I knew I needed something pretty comfortable, or something that would really kind of protect my legs, protect my body throughout a lot of miles, because I was focusing on really building my endurance. I was running farther than I ever had before. I was putting on more miles per week than I ever was before. So I bought one shoe to kind of do the bulk of my training in, and it was it's back there on the shelf, the Triumph 19. And I bought that shoe because it had a pretty high stack height and it protected my legs. And when I got to my long runs, I didn't worry too much about paces because I was doing most of them at a slower pace. But just a couple of weeks ago, to give you an example of what I mean by this, is that I had a run from Garmin in my current Garmin plan where I was supposed to do a long run where it was 1 hour and 45 minutes at an easy pace. And then I think it was 40 minutes, might have been 45 minutes at a marathon pace on top of that. And when I saw that, immediately I thought to myself, I should be using a marathon shoe for this run, because I have that 40-45 minutes at marathon pace. And I was using which one is it? That one right there. I was using the Endorphin Speed 2. I was going to be using that for the marathon I have coming up. So I thought to myself, I would throw on that shoe and run this entire run in this. Well, what happened was that for me, and I know lots of people love the Endorphin Speed and the Endorphin Speed 2, especially the Endorphin Speed 3 now that's probably corrected. It sounds like it's corrected some of the stability. I haven't gotten the shoe yet. But anyways, that shoe, the Endorphin Speed 2, when I'm at slow speeds, it really kind of, I'm not very stable in the heel in that shoe. I kind of heel strike a little bit more when I'm at slow speeds. And it wasn't the right shoe for that 1 hour and 45 minutes I spent at an easy pace. And by the time I got to the marathon pace miles, I was really beat up. My knees, my hips, my ankles, everything was quite beat up from that instability that I have in that shoe. It was great once I got to the marathon miles, but honestly, I was pretty beat up and barely made it through the marathon miles. What would have been a better choice for me on that run was to focus more on comfort and actually take something like that Triumph 19 or the Triumph 20, which I don't have in the room right now, but that's the shoe if you continue watching my channel, you'll get a full review on the Triumph 20 here coming up pretty soon. But I could have used either one of those shoes, and it would have allowed me to handle that 1 hour and 45 minutes of easy running a whole lot better. After that, if I wanted to, I could have looped back to the car and changed into the marathon shoes that I was going to be wearing. But honestly, I probably would have just tried to run the marathon pace in the Triumph 20s because they're a decent shoe for that. They're nowhere near as easy for me to run it as it is in the Endorphin Speed 2s, but it gives me the opportunity to save my body. Comfort is king. Long runs, put comfort as your priority. Worry about the other stuff on top of that after. And I almost forgot, and this is sort of a 4B when it comes to comfort is king, and I recognize that there are some people out there who don't have a large shoe rotation, but the same rule applies. If you're looking to buy just one shoe to rule them all, one shoe to wear for all your training, and even for race day, when you're buying that shoe, I encourage you, if it's a distance you've never run before, make comfort your priority. Don't worry about that other stuff. Worry about comfort first, and then see if there's any other tweaks in terms of what shoe you might buy. But worry about comfort first. Comfort is king, even if you've only got one shoe that you're going to be doing all of your work in. And the last tip that I have for you is planning out your route. Now, typically if you're going on a shorter run, you're able to just strap up your shoes, head out the door, and go for the run. But if you're going on a long run, there's a number of questions you need to consider before figuring out where you're going to run. Those are questions like, where are you going to be using the bathroom if you need to during that run? Is there a spot where you can buy a bottle of water or a snack on that run? Is there a spot where you can top up on your hydration in your hydration vest or your bottle, depending upon what you might be carrying? For me, I have this spot where I'm able to park and then go in one direction and do an 8-kilometer loop back to the car, and then head out in the other direction and do an 8-kilometer out and back to the car. Both of those are along a river, both of those are fairly flat, and both of those are fairly shaded, so that when I get back to the car, I'm able to top up on my hydration and fuel if I need. And also a little bit of a bonus tip that I got from somebody. I posted a video a couple weeks ago, and I'll put the comment up here. I can't remember the name, I apologize, but they had a little bit of a pro tip that was so simple but such a game changer for me. And they said they take a cooler with some ice and some water with them when they go on their long run, at least in the car, so that when they get back to the car, they've got some cold water to source for fueling or for just at the end of the run. So that's it, some quick tips and tricks that hopefully might help you on your next long run. If you have some additional tips and tricks, please put that in the comment section down below. Hit that thumbs up button if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want a lot of awesome running content that I have coming out in the future. Hit that bell notification as well so you get notified every time I do put out a new video. My name is Matt, and this is What Matters to Matt, and ultimately what matters to me most is my family. I'll see you in the next one.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.